Good morning, you guys. Welcome back to my kitchen. My name is Brienne for those of you who are new here. And this morning we are going to be very busy in the kitchen. I have a list of all the things that I plan on making this morning. I want to try to prep ahead at close to a month's worth of breakfast foods. So I'm super excited because this is my first video doing this. So I figured it'd be a great way to start off this series with some breakfast staples. All of these things are going to be made from scratch. So just to go over what we're going to be making today, I'm going to be making some strawberries and cream overnight oats. I have these freeze-dried strawberries that have just been sitting in our pantry, so I figured that would be a really good variety. I used to love the Quaker oats, the cream, like the strawberry and cream version, banana and cream, and all that. So I figured I'll make some from scratch. I also am going to be doing probably close to 20 breakfast sandwiches. So yesterday I went ahead and did quite a bit of prep work for this. So I made, I made 11 English muffins. These are sourdough English muffins, and it was my first time making English muffins. They turned out delicious. So I'm super excited to be building breakfast sandwiches with those. I'm also going to be making some buttermilk biscuits as well. That is going to include some sourdough discard. And for the meats with that, I'm going to be doing bacon, which I already prepared yesterday. Just a few things that I did to prepare was I made up the bacon, I made the English muffins. I am also going to be doing some mini pancakes. So I wanted to do a fermented version of my sourdough pancakes that's on my blog. So I went ahead and made kind of a sponge overnight, and now all I have to do is add in some eggs, some butter, and the baking soda and salt, and those will be ready to go on the griddle. I want to do this zucchini cheese muffin recipe. It sounds really good, and it's high in protein. It has, I think, 3 or 4 eggs and then like a cup of cottage cheese in it as well. So that'll be a really nice go-to along some bacon or something in the morning. I think that would be really good. And then I also want to do some zucchini bread. I have some zucchini that was going bad in the fridge. So yesterday I shredded it up and froze it, and it's kind of leaking. So before I add it into our zucchini muffins and bread, I'm just going to make sure I squeeze out all of the excess water so that they don't end up soggy. Last night I also got some cinnamon raisin sourdough bread going and just a regular artesian loaf, because we're going to need an extra loaf of bread anyway. So that's in the fridge. That'll probably be the last thing that I tackle today, because that's going to take the longest in the oven. And I figured while that's going, we could just go ahead and start packaging up the sandwiches and whatever else we need to do. So let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and preheat my oven to 425, and as you guys can probably see, I'm not working with a huge kitchen, so I have to make the most out of the space here. I made sure to just kind of set out all the ingredients that I'm going to need. It's definitely not going to be the most organized given the space, but we're going to make it work. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the pancake batter. I'm going to go ahead and finish that up, and after that I'll get the biscuit dough going. I also pre-shredded the cheese for my zucchini muffin, so that'll save me a few extra minutes as well. So here is the kind of sourdough sponge that I made. This is most of the pancake ingredients. I also have some melted butter here that I'm going to add in, and it did solidify a little bit, but so I'm going to go ahead and add this, and this is 1/4 cup of butter. And if you guys would like the recipe, I'm going to leave all of the recipes that I'm using today in the description box below. Some will be from my blog, some will be from others' blogs. I want to whisk my eggs before adding it in, just so that I'm not going to overwork my batter. So 2 eggs in this bowl here, same bowl that we use for the butter, and I'm just going to use a fork to whisk it in. So I'm just finishing up the pancake batter from yesterday. I love the fact of when you ferment pancake batter using your sourdough starter, that it just totally enhances the flavor. It gives it so much more sourdough flavor, and it also helps with the digestibility of the pancakes and boosts the nutrition profile as well. So I'm just adding in that melted butter. I'm adding in our eggs and the baking powder and the salt. This recipe is on my blog. It is for a whole wheat version, but if you'd like, you can definitely just use all-purpose flour as well. But definitely my go-to recipe for pancakes. I've even made waffles with this batter as well, and that works out really good as well. So I want to make the most out of what I have, so that's why I wanted to get the biscuits going, because that way when they're in the oven we can start sizzling our pancakes, and once those are sizzling I can also make the overnight oats as well. So I'm thinking about how can I condense my time, how can I multitask and get things done quicker and just get things going at the same time. So let's get our biscuits going. I need to add some flour here. So for this recipe I'm going to need flour, honey, butter of course, buttermilk, and baking powder and salt. So I have my buttermilk sitting in the fridge. I actually like to make mine homemade with a little bit of lemon juice. So I just do some whole milk and a bit of lemon juice, and that is your buttermilk replacement. I like to do a blend of flour. So I'm gonna do a cup of bread flour. I also love to do whole grain blends in pretty much every baked good that I make. So I'm gonna do 1 cup of spelt flour, and 1/4 cup of rye flour. So on my blog you'll notice that the recipe just calls for all-purpose or bread flour, but honestly you can switch it out for whole wheat or any sort of whole grain, except I wouldn't do 100% rye. But you can definitely do a blend of flours if you'd like. To that, I'm gonna add in 2 tablespoons of baking powder. I have my recipe here that I'm referencing. So again, I'm using my 1/2 tablespoon. I'm gonna do 4 of these. One teaspoon of salt. And then I'm just going to give this a mix. So as a Christian, the Word of God says to live your life prudently. So this is one of the ways that I'm doing that. Prudence essentially just means foreseeing the future. I definitely can foresee needing some breakfast, so why not just make it ahead? And I know that I will thank myself in the future for doing this. So now that that's added, we're gonna go ahead and shred in our butter with a box grater. I'm gonna go ahead and cut it in half. So this is 8 tablespoons of butter, and I'm just gonna go ahead and shred this right over top of the flour. And this is a great hack for getting butter mixed in with your flour, as opposed to doing the cube method, which I used to do it, but it's definitely, I feel like, more tedious and time consuming. So this way you still have to use a fork or a pastry cutter to cut in the butter, but at least it's in shreds and not cubes. So it'll be a lot faster. So, all right, now that our butter's shredded in, I'm just gonna go ahead and kind of toss the flour over the butter and then just start mixing it in. You wanna make sure the butter gets nice and coated with the flour before we start kind of going at it to get it into nice coarse crumbs. Yeah, that's a lot easier than crushing up some cubes of butter. So after this is nice and crummy, I'm gonna go ahead and make a well in the center, and then we can pour in our sourdough discard and buttermilk. Ooh, and honey as well. All right, so I kind of forgot that I needed my sourdough discard for this recipe. So I didn't have a whole lot of starter left. I had just under 1/2 cup. So I may need to add a little bit of milk to compensate for that, but we will see how the batter turns out. And then to that, I'm gonna add about 2 teaspoons of raw honey. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and make a well in the center, my butter and flour mixture. And And then I'm just gonna pour that into the center. All right, and now I'm just gonna mix everything together until it's just incorporated. You wanna make sure not to over-mix your batter because you don't want your biscuits to be dense. We want them to be nice and light and flaky and fluffy. So, oh yeah, I'm gonna add just a bit more milk, probably about another tablespoon. All right, I'm just gonna sprinkle my surface with a bit of rye flour and then put the batter right onto there. All right, I am going to gently, firmly I should say, press down our batter, flouring my hands as needed, and then I'm just gonna start with one corner, press it down, next corner, press it down, and I'm gonna rotate my dough. Maybe flour the bottom a bit more, just because I don't want it to stick too much. Fold the corner to the right side, fold the left side. And this just helps our dough to come together, and it ensures that we're gonna get those nice and flaky layers. All right, I'm gonna do that a total of 3 times. Oval, I should say, not really a rectangle, to be about 1 inch thick. From there, we can just start popping out our biscuits. I know we're really gonna enjoy these sandwiches. My husband doesn't usually eat breakfast, so I know this will be really nice for him to be able to take some sandwiches to work. I can just pop them out of the freezer and put them in the fridge overnight and then just heat it up for him before he goes to work. And that'll be a nice satiating little breakfast to hold him over until lunch. And I'm not gonna throw this dough away. I'll probably just make a skinnier one for baby girl. I know she'll love this one. I do want to get the shape though, because when you cut it out, you want to be sure not to twist it, but that's what gives it the nice airiness and makes it really fluffy, is when you cut it. It helps it to expand in the oven. So let's see, 2, 4, 6, 7. Oh, we got 7. Okay, that'll do. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these onto our baking sheet, and then we can get our pancakes going. All right, so and when you put the biscuits onto the baking tray, you want to make sure that they are just about touching. Slightly touching is fine, because this is actually going to help them to expand in the oven as well. These are going to be nice and fluffy. Oops. All right, I'm throwing these into the oven for about probably 10 to 12 minutes. We'll check on them. All right, so I'm preheating my skillet to about medium heat. And while that's warming up, I'm gonna go ahead and get our overnight oats out of the way, because that'll be really quick and easy. That way I can just stick them in the fridge and then we can move on to another batter. Look at how bubbly this is. Yeah, those pancakes are gonna be delicious. So I'm gonna set this aside. And for the overnight oats, I'm just gonna use a quart-sized mason jar. This would be a really good go-to, like as soon as I wake up snack. If I'm hungry, which usually I have been, then I can just take some of these out, put them in a bowl, and that's a quick and easy snack slash breakfast. We're gonna start with 2 cups of oats. All right, 2 cups of oats. Then I'm gonna add in some Greek yogurt. I don't think that Greek yogurt was any good, so that's fine. I bought a brand new one the other day. And I want this to be high protein, so I'm actually gonna add in not only the Greek yogurt, but I could do collagen, but actually I wanna do some whey protein. Actually, I could do both. I think I'll do both because those blend together pretty well. All right, so I'm gonna add just a couple dollops of Greek yogurt. And this makes it nice and creamy. So probably a little bit more. Next, I'm gonna add in about 3 tablespoons of vanilla maple syrup, a pinch of salt, a pinch of vanilla extract. I'm gonna crush up about 1/4 cup of our freeze-dried strawberries. Strawberries are added in. Now I'm gonna add 1 scoop of collagen and 1 scoop of our protein powder. And this jar is definitely filling up quickly, but afterward I'm gonna put the lid on and we're gonna shake it up, and then it should be perfect. Everything should mix together nicely and it won't look so full. I'm gonna finish it off with some milk. Yeah, that looks a lot better. So I'm just gonna make sure everything gets nicely incorporated. And I think our pan is heated up, so we can go ahead and start our pancakes as well. You know, this is gonna feel like a long couple hours probably getting all of this done, but I know at the end of it, when I see everything that I baked and made and prepared, I'm just gonna have a sigh of relief. And then I can finally just rest. Oop, let's check on our biscuits. All right, our biscuits look perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull these out. And look at those. Nice and fluffy. And these are gonna make some awesome breakfast sandwiches. I am gonna keep my oven on just because I know I'm gonna be throwing either the bread or the muffins in there next. We're gonna let our biscuits cool for a few minutes there, and then I'll probably transfer them to a wired rack. All right, our oats are done, so I'm gonna go ahead and throw these into the fridge. Then I'm gonna clean up over here, and then we can get started on our pancakes. So I wish I had a griddle, but I do not. So I'm gonna be making mini pancakes. I'm just gonna add a little bit of butter onto the cast iron skillet. And then I'm just gonna start spooning on batter. We're gonna make some mini pancakes. I'll probably do 4 at a time because I don't want to overcrowd the pan and I don't want them to touch as much as possible. They should be ready to flip. All right, while I'm doing these pancakes, I'm gonna get started on some beef sausage as well because some of the breakfast sandwiches are gonna be having sausage on them. So I can go ahead and get that going after I put this next batch on. Okay, so I have my bowl. This is the same bowl that I did the biscuit dough in. I just rinsed it out. I'm gonna go ahead and add in some Wagyu beef. It's been sitting out for a little while, and when you let it kind of come not quite room temperature, but when it gets softer, it's just easier to work with overall, and it ends up cooking a lot more evenly as well. So I'm just gonna add this right into the bowl. And the only thing I'm gonna measure here is the salt. So I'm gonna do 1.5 teaspoons of pink Himalayan salt, some freshly ground black pepper, some smoked paprika, a little bit more, some sage, garlic powder, onion powder, a little bit of thyme leaves, and some red pepper flakes. All right, now I'm just gonna give this a quick mix with my hands and get all the seasonings worked in. Okay, so as soon as I'm done with the pancakes, I'm gonna start our beef sausage for our sandwiches, but in the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and get our zucchini muffin batter going. This definitely feels like a lot of hard work. I'm literally working up a bit of a sweat. I think part of the reason because I turned off our AC, so you guys didn't have to hear that in the background. But I am just looking forward to the end result. Even with a small kitchen, this just goes to show that you guys can make it work. You know, with proper planning and just kind of cleaning and organizing as you go, then you can definitely make it happen. If you've been wanting to get into meal prepping, I know that I have. I've been watching so many channels, getting inspired by others that have been on this journey of meal prepping, and it always just looks so satisfying and just so smart. It's like, you know, I don't want to cook dinner every night. I don't want to cook breakfast every day. If I could just skip out on that and literally just pull something out of the freezer and thaw it out, or do that the night before to have it ready and just pop it in the oven or toaster oven, I would love that. So I know that this is going to be oh so worth it. We have our pancakes down. We probably have another batch or maybe two, and we have quite a bit already. So this is what we're working with right now. And I have my recipe pulled up. I thought I lost it. I'm so glad I didn't. So let's see. I usually just like to start with the wet ingredients. I'll add those in, and then I'll add the dry on top, and then mix it together. So the first thing I need to do is squeeze out all the excess water from my zucchini. So I'm gonna do that really quick. So I had 4 cups yesterday, but now that I squeeze this out, it looks more like 2 cups. So I think I'm probably gonna have to skip out on the zucchini bread, which is fine. I'll just make these muffins and we'll still have plenty of food by the end. So flip our pancakes. Those look perfect. All right, so I'm just going to grab some eggs. So I need 4 eggs. 2, 3, and 4. Go ahead and crack these in. So it's only 10:56, so we are doing pretty darn good. The longest thing is going to be the artesian bread, but I'm just going to save that for the end because it's gonna take the longest time in the oven, and the cool time is gonna take quite a while as well. So I won't be able to slice it up and put it in the freezer until later today. So I have yet to make a recipe using cottage cheese. I know that it's been very popular lately to do that, and I mean, that's a great way to add in extra protein and just flavor and creaminess. So I'm excited to make this recipe. Pull these pancakes off really quick. Oops, sorry little guy. And I'm not gonna worry about buttering these. I usually do butter pancakes after taking them off, but that's only if we're gonna be eating them right away. So we'll just butter them as we eat them. All right, we need 1/4 cup of milk and then 1 cup of cottage cheese. The recipe says 2% cottage cheese, but I'm just gonna use full fat. That's usually what I buy when I'm at the store. So I'm gonna do full fat cottage cheese. One tablespoon of oil, so I'm just gonna eyeball it. 1 tablespoon of maple syrup as well, I'm gonna eyeball that as well. And I know that seems kind of weird, the vanilla maple syrup, but that's all I got. And I don't really want to put honey in it, so I'm sure it won't change the flavor much at all. Hopefully not anyway. So before my life changed dramatically and I got married, had a baby, and then became a stay-at-home wife and mom, I was a waitress, and I absolutely loved being a waitress. So I love the challenge of multitasking. My fellow waitresses and waiters out there, y'all know we gotta multitask when we're working. So I kind of think of this in the same sense as you're juggling multiple tasks at the same time. You're figuring out, okay, how can I condense my time? How can I condense my steps? How can I make it easier for myself? So that's what I'm doing, and I'm having fun doing it. Honestly, I was a little overwhelmed at first, but feeling a lot better now. So I'm gonna ditch this fork, and I'm gonna use a whisk to whisk all of our wet ingredients. All right, that's all nice and mixed in. I'm also going to add in, should I add this now or later? I think I'm gonna add that afterward, after I add in the dry ingredients. We got a huge heaping plate over here. All right, it says preheat the oven to 400, so I'm gonna crank that up. All right, for this, I'm going to do a blend of flours again. So I'm gonna do 1/2 cup of bread flour, 1/2 cup of whole wheat, and 1/2 cup of spelt. All right, we need 2 teaspoons of baking powder. All right, these are my last 3 pancakes. So as soon as these come off, I'm throwing on my sausage. I'm gonna have a huge mess to clean up after this. I'm trying to clean as I go, but I know it's still gonna be messy. Definitely looking forward to the day we have a bigger kitchen, but I also think of a bigger space as more space to make a mess, so kind of grateful that this is the only space I have to make a mess. Pancakes are done. This plate is hot, but I want to show you because it's heaping. So that's going to be, I don't know how many meals right there. Maybe 8 to 10, perhaps? We'll see. I love me some pancakes. All right. I'm gonna throw some sausage on now. I'm gonna make some good sized patties. And I love Wagyu beef. I mean, I love any sort of beef, but Wagyu in particular, it's gonna have a lot higher marbling because of the higher fat content. So I'm making my patties about that big, throw it down. So I did have to end up editing out a couple of the clips because the video volume was just way too loud with the beef sizzling in the background. But as I'm cooking the beef sausages, as you guys saw, I'm just getting the zucchini muffin batter going. So I'm adding in the zucchini, which I made sure to squeeze out all the excess water. That way the muffins won't be soggy and the batter won't be too wet. And then I'm just folding in my cheddar cheese as well. I kind of realized after the fact that I probably should have mixed in my zucchini with all the wet ingredients first, because that way it would have been distributed a lot more evenly than it was. But like I said, you guys will see later how they turn out. They still turned out delicious. And I will definitely link this for you guys. I will link the recipe down below, along with all of the other recipes that I'm making in this video. So the beef sausage I have on my blog, it's not made with Wagyu. It's just made with standard ground beef, but it really doesn't matter. You could use Wagyu or regular ground beef. And the seasonings also are a bit different. I tend to, once I know how to make something, usually when I go to make something, I try not to look at a recipe unless I absolutely need to. But I like to just kind of play around with different flavors and seasonings and things like that. So that's kind of what I did here. All right, now that I washed off my hands, I'm gonna go ahead and line my baking sheet with some muffin tins so we can go ahead and get these muffins in the oven. All right, I'm just going to finish these off by topping each one with a little bit of extra cheese. I'm just using an extra sharp cheddar mixed with an aged cheddar. All right, I just put my muffins in the oven. We are almost done, you guys, almost at the finish line. So I'm just gonna throw some butter in here, and then I'm just gonna fit as many eggs as I can crack. And there's still a bit of dark bits from the meat, but that should be okay. All right, so I'm not gonna do scrambled eggs. But I'm just going to kind of throw them all in here. Not all of them, but probably going to do 5. And then make them into sandwich eggs. So just crush up the yolk. Oops. All right, I'm just gonna set the eggs. Once they're done, I'm gonna bring them over to just the baking sheet with the parchment paper. And I'm just gonna let them kind of cool off there while I get all the others done. All right, our zucchini muffins are done. Wow, those look beautiful. Those look delicious. Those look so good. All right, I'm gonna let these cool in here for probably 10 minutes before transferring them to a wired rack. Another word of advice, if you guys are gonna be doing long meal prep days, wearing a comfortable pair of shoes definitely is gonna help, and you're gonna be glad that you did. Here's a close-up on those muffins, you guys. These look delicious. Definitely excited to try one of these. All right, you guys, so my Dutch oven is in the oven right now, preheating, and I'm about to get these 2 loaves of bread going. Now, I can only do 1 loaf at a time because I only have 1 Dutch oven, but that's okay. So I'm gonna start with my cinnamon raisin loaf. I have some parchment paper down. All right, at this point, I am ready to start assembling our breakfast sandwiches. So I'm just gonna start by cutting open all of the English muffins and the biscuits as well. And I'm just gonna put the tops underneath and put the bottoms on top for now. And then that way I can just kind of visually see everything, and then we can start getting all of our toppings on. So these English muffins turned out great. The recipe I got was from Little Spoon Farm, so I'll link that in the description box. It tastes, oh my gosh. I was just wondering, because I've never made English muffins before, and I was like, is this actually gonna taste like an English muffin? And it absolutely does. It is so much better than store-bought. So I am super excited about these. I'm excited about having them just easily on hand in our freezer on a busy morning, or a morning where I don't feel like making breakfast, or maybe we've got to run somewhere and we don't really have time. This is the perfect option. Here's our biscuits. These turned out wonderful as well. And like I said, if you guys want to give that recipe a try or check it out, I have the printable version on my blog, so I will leave that in the description box as well. Be gentle with these so that they don't break. All right, I'm gonna start with the biscuit breakfast sandwiches. I have all of the tops over on this side and the bottoms right here. So I'm gonna do some sharp cheddar cheese. I'm gonna do that for the base. And obviously you could layer it however you want. I'm just gonna do half a slice on each one, just because they're not super big. So I think a half slice should be good. That way we're saving on costs as well, because we do have to consider that as well when we're meal planning and prepping. All right, so we have 7. So I'm gonna do, let's see, I'm gonna do 3 with breakfast sausage, 3 with, actually 2 with bacon. Let's see. I'm not super sure how much bacon, let me see how much bacon I have. Okay, I have 8 slices of bacon. So I'm gonna do 1.5 on each. Actually, I'm gonna split them so that way when we go to put the plastic wrap around them, they should close pretty easily. Okay, and then I'll do the other 2 with beef bacon, which would be for my husband. He prefers beef bacon. So now I'm just gonna add the egg on top. Some of the eggs are kind of big, so I'm gonna kind of improvise here and use that save, try to stretch it as much as possible because I don't think I made enough eggs for everything, so we'll see. First loaf of bread, so I'm going to turn that off, and it's not done, but I just have to take the lid off. Grace, watch out. I just got to take the lid off, and I was honestly struggling with this last night, you guys. I was pretty frustrated because just the whole cinnamon swirl part, my bread was super sticky and it was kind of messy, so I'm hoping it didn't open up. That was my goal, but we're gonna see. Okay. It looks like it did a little bit, which is what I expected, but I'm gonna throw this back into the oven. It doesn't look too bad. And I guess that'll make a nice little, like a kind of a candied caramel crust on the bottom. I don't know, we'll see. Either way, I know it'll be delicious. I'm super hungry. I haven't had anything since before I started, and I want to try one of these muffins because if these are as good as they look, then I'm definitely going to be making this recipe again. Then I know my husband's hungry as well. I'm going to get him one of those breakfast sandwiches in the toaster oven to get warm. So let's try this muffin. Smells good. Wow. Ooh, that is delicious. Full of flavor. The zucchini is really nice. It adds a nice flavor and texture. And that cheese on top is a great compliment. So I'm definitely going to enjoy these. I'm definitely going to be enjoying these. Some matcha latte I prepped the other day. So refreshing. All right, you guys, so that pretty much does it for this video. I am just gonna let the bread keep cooking in the oven, and then once that's done, I'm gonna throw the other loaf in there. I'm gonna get our breakfast sandwiches wrapped up individually and then throw those into the freezer. I also have some labels that I'm gonna put on the ones that are beef bacon and beef sausage, just so we know which is which. The muffins I'm gonna throw into a freezer bag. Pancakes, same with those. And then I'm gonna let the loaves of bread cool and we'll slice those open. I'll show you guys what that looks like. But yeah, I'm gonna get cleaned up in this kitchen. I got a sink full of dishes to do. So thank you guys so much for stopping by and joining me in my kitchen as I prep all of these delicious breakfast staples from scratch to last us probably, I'm hoping over a month, because it's just me, my husband, stepdaughter, and then baby girl doesn't eat a whole lot. So we will see. But otherwise, we got a lot done in the kitchen today. It was very productive and I feel great. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I would love it if you considered subscribing as well. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will see you next time.